As we age, keeping our mind sharp becomes just as crucial as staying physically strong. Ever walk into a room and forget why you're there? Or have trouble recalling a name that used to come to you instantly? If so, you're definitely not alone. But here's some good news. The foods we choose can play a major role in how our brains perform as we get older. In today's video, we're going to explore 5 brain-boosting superfoods that are perfect for seniors. These aren't just the latest food trends. They're real, everyday staples that are scientifically proven to support cognitive health. From a comforting bowl of oats that keeps your mind fueled throughout the day, to a powerful spice that may actually help preserve your memory. We'll break down each one, its benefits, and how easy it is to incorporate them into your meals. This video is for everyone, whether you're a senior looking to stay sharp, a caregiver wanting the best for a loved one, or anyone who values mental clarity and independence as they age. If that sounds like you, or someone you know, stick with us. You might already have some of these game-changing foods in your kitchen right now. But don't just watch. We want to hear from you. What foods have you found that help keep you feeling sharp and energized? Have you tried any of the foods we talk about in today's video? Share your thoughts in the comments. Your experiences could inspire someone else. If you're passionate about senior health, want practical food tips, and enjoy simple advice that makes a real difference, make sure to like this video, hit subscribe, and turn on notifications so you never miss a new upload. Let's dive into how these foods can help keep your brain healthy, one bite at a time. 5. Blueberries. As we get older, taking care of our brain is just as important as caring for our bodies. Simple actions like eating the right foods can make all the difference in preserving our cognitive health. One such food that stands out is blueberries. Packed with powerful antioxidants, they offer more than just a burst of sweetness. They're a true brain booster. Blueberries are rich in antioxidants, specifically anthocyanins, which are responsible for their vibrant blue color. These antioxidants help protect brain cells from oxidative stress and the effects of aging. In fact, studies suggest that regular consumption of blueberries can help slow down cognitive decline and even protect against neurodegenerative diseases. The natural compounds in blueberries act like tiny warriors, defending your brain from the harmful effects of aging. I remember the first time I learned about the brain-boosting properties of blueberries. I was chatting with a nutritionist at a community event for seniors, and she mentioned how adding a handful of fresh blueberries to my breakfast could help support my memory and decision-making. That simple piece of advice stuck with me, and I started adding them to my oatmeal each morning. At first, I didn't think much would change, but over the weeks, I began to notice that my thoughts felt a little clearer, and I was able to focus better throughout the day. For seniors, this is especially important. As we age, it's easy to feel like we're losing a little of that mental sharpness we once had. But incorporating blueberries into your daily diet might just give you a boost. Studies suggest that after about 6 weeks of regular consumption, the benefits start to show up. People report improved memory and a clearer ability to make decisions. That's because the antioxidants in blueberries help reduce inflammation in the brain and support communication between brain cells, improving overall brain function. One of the easiest ways to add blueberries to your diet is by simply tossing them into your morning breakfast. I found that they pair perfectly with oatmeal or yogurt, creating a delicious, nutritious start to the day. You can also add them to smoothies or just enjoy them by the handful as a snack. They're naturally sweet, so you don't need to worry about added sugars. Plus, blueberries are low in calories, making them a guilt-free snack that you can enjoy anytime. Another great thing about blueberries is how versatile they are. You can freeze them to enjoy later or add them to salads, baked goods, or even your afternoon tea. Not only do they taste great, but they also come packed with fiber, which is important for maintaining a healthy gut, something that often gets overlooked as we age. A healthy gut is essential for overall well-being, including brain function. Beyond their cognitive benefits, blueberries have been shown to help improve mood and reduce the risk of depression. This is an important consideration for seniors, as many experience feelings of loneliness or sadness in later years. The antioxidants in blueberries may help reduce the oxidative stress that's linked to mood disorders, promoting a sense of well-being and emotional balance. If you're looking to add blueberries to your routine, it's a simple and easy step to take. Start by adding them to your breakfast or snack time, and gradually experiment with new ways to incorporate them into your meals. Whether fresh or frozen, they're readily available year-round, and they can be found in most grocery stores. If fresh blueberries are out of season, don't hesitate to grab frozen ones. They have the same nutritional benefits. As I continue to enjoy my daily servings of blueberries, I'm reminded that aging doesn't have to mean losing your mental sharpness. With the right foods, we can preserve our cognitive abilities and continue living vibrant, active lives. So, next time you're at the store, make sure to grab a container of fresh or frozen blueberries. Your brain will thank you, and you'll be giving yourself a natural way to stay sharp as the years go by. In conclusion, adding blueberries to your diet is an easy, delicious, and effective way to support brain health in later years. Whether it's improving memory, decision-making skills, or just adding a burst of flavor to your meals, blueberries are a simple solution to maintain mental clarity. As we age, every little step we take to support our health counts, and incorporating these little blue gems into your daily routine is one step in the right direction. So, let's enjoy the benefits of blueberries and keep our minds as sharp as ever. 4. Pumpkin seeds. It started with a small glass jar on the edge of Eleanor's kitchen counter. Nothing fancy, just a repurposed jam jar filled to the top with tiny green seeds. She kept it next to her tea bags, right between the honey and the pepper grinder. Just a pinch a day, she'd remind herself, as if she were following an old family tradition. But this wasn't about superstition. It was about clarity, calm, and caring for her 78-year-old brain. Eleanor had always been sharp, but lately she'd felt herself getting flustered more easily. She couldn't find the right words mid-conversation, or she'd forget why she walked into a room. She even noticed her mood swinging more than usual, feeling low or anxious for no real reason. It didn't feel like her. That's when she started reading more about how food could support brain health. And one thing kept popping up again and again: pumpkin seeds. Tiny, humble, and often overlooked pumpkin seeds, or pepitas, as some call them, are packed with magnesium, zinc, and iron. Eleanor was surprised to learn how essential these minerals are for her aging brain. Magnesium, for one, is like a calming balm for the nervous system. It helps regulate neurotransmitters and can ease anxiety. At her age, with the world spinning fast and memories sometimes feeling out of reach, that kind of inner calm wasn't just nice, it was necessary. Then there was zinc. Most people associate it with immune health, but Eleanor discovered it plays a key role in communication between brain cells. A lack of zinc, especially in older adults, has been linked to poor memory and foggy thinking. Iron, too, was crucial. It helps transport oxygen through the blood, and the brain is one of the most oxygen-hungry organs we have. Without enough iron, the mind can feel sluggish, like a radio struggling to stay tuned to the right station. Eleanor didn't need convincing after that. She began by sprinkling a spoonful over her morning yogurt, tangy Greek style with a swirl of honey and some chopped figs. The seeds added a slight crunch and an earthy flavor that she grew to love. Sometimes she tossed them into her lunchtime salad or kept a small bag in her purse to snack on during her afternoon walks. Better than potato chips, she joked to her friend Joan. What surprised her the most wasn't just how easy they were to incorporate into her day. It was how much better she began to feel after a few weeks. Her mood lifted subtly but noticeably. She didn't feel as overwhelmed by small problems. She was sleeping more soundly. Her thoughts came easier during her weekly book club discussions. Nothing dramatic, but enough for her to feel like herself again. She even began using pumpkin seeds as part of her worry ritual whenever she found herself overthinking. Especially before bed, she'd sit in her favorite chair, light a lavender candle, nibble a small handful of seeds, and write a line or two in her journal. It was calming, grounding, a small act of nourishment both for body and spirit. Her grandson, curious about her new snack, asked her why she didn't just take supplement. "I could," she said, "but food speaks to the body in a language it understands." He smiled, not fully getting it, but appreciating her answer anyway. The truth is, there's something deeply satisfying about caring for yourself in such a tangible, natural way. Eleanor believed in medicine, sure, but she also believed in listening to your body's quiet needs, the ones that ask for balance, comfort, and a little bit of daily kindness. The more she read, the more she realized how many older adults were missing out on these small but mighty seeds. Many of her friends were struggling with low energy, stress, even mild depression, and no one thought to look in their snack bowls. But pumpkin seeds weren't just for health nuts or young yoga influencers. They were timeless, easy to chew, easy to digest, and inexpensive, the perfect addition to any senior's kitchen. Eleanor eventually made it a habit to gift small jars of roasted pumpkin seeds to her neighbors. She'd wrap them in a ribbon and leave a little card. "For your heart and mind. Love, Eleanor." Some thought it was sweet. Others, like her friend Carl, started asking where she bought them so they could restock when they ran out. Looking back, Eleanor couldn't pinpoint exactly when things changed. There wasn't a magic switch, but she knew that something as small as a seed had made a big difference. It reminded her of something her mother used to say when she was a girl. Take care of the little things, and the big things will take care of themselves. That, she thought, might be the most senior advice of all. So now, every day without fail, Eleanor reaches for that small jar by her tea. Not because she's worried or chasing youth, but because she's honoring the mind she's carried through decades of life. One seed at a time. 3. Turmeric. Every morning around 6:30, just before the sun spilled through the lace curtains in her kitchen, Margaret began her quiet ritual. The kettle would hum. The teaspoon would clink against the sides of her favorite ceramic mug, and that familiar golden powder, turmeric, would swirl gently into the warm water, releasing its earthy scent. A touch of honey, a squeeze of lemon, and sometimes a tiny pinch of black pepper. It was a peaceful beginning, but for Margaret, it was also deeply purposeful. At 74, Margaret had started noticing small changes. Misplaced keys, forgotten names, moments when the thread of a thought slipped right through her fingers. Nothing alarming, but enough to make her wonder what she could do to protect the mind she'd spent decades using to raise children, write poetry, and win Sunday crossword puzzles. She didn't want to just get by in her later years. She wanted to stay mentally sharp and emotionally balanced. That's when she stumbled upon turmeric. She had read that the bright yellow spice, used for centuries in Indian cooking and Ayurvedic medicine, contained a compound called curcumin. What fascinated her wasn't just the ancient wisdom, but the modern science catching up to it. Curcumin, she learned, has a rare ability. It can cross the blood-brain barrier. That's the body's highly selective shield that protects the brain from toxins, but also blocks many helpful compounds. Curcumin makes it through, and once it's in, it gets to work. Inflammation, scientists say, is a major culprit in cognitive decline. Margaret had never thought about her brain being inflamed, but the concept made sense. If joints could swell and ache with age, why not brain cells? Curcumin helps soothe that inflammation, and even more impressively, it encourages the production of BDNF, brain-derived neurotrophic factor, a protein that supports the growth of new neurons. For Margaret, that sounded like hope in a teaspoon. There is even research showing that turmeric could improve memory and mood, especially in older adults. One study she found involved seniors who took a curcumin supplement daily and saw noticeable improvements in their ability to remember details and focus. Some even reported feeling less anxious or blue. Margaret thought about her friend Edna, who had recently lost her husband and often said she felt like she was walking through fog. Maybe turmeric could offer not just clarity, but comfort too. Of course, Margaret knew she wasn't going to rely on turmeric alone. She still walked every day, ate her greens, and played word games religiously. But turmeric became her little anchor. Some days she used the powdered form in cooking, stirred into scrambled eggs, or dusted over roasted vegetables. Other times, when she didn't feel like the earthy taste, she took it in capsule form with her morning vitamins. But most often, she returned to her favorite version, turmeric tea with honey and lemon. Warm, simple, and soothing to the soul. She even began sharing the habit with her bridge group. At first, they raised their eyebrows. "Is this one of your fancy health potions again?" her friend Rita joked. But when Rita tried the tea herself and started sleeping better and feeling more alert, she asked Margaret for the recipe. Soon enough, turmeric became a standing joke at their table. "Don't mess with Margaret," they'd say. "She's got curcumin power now." Margaret didn't care about fads or flashy supplements. What she cared about was feeling like herself, present, clear, connected. In the afternoons, when she sat down to write in her journal, she noticed she was less likely to lose her train of thought. On her evening calls with her granddaughter, she could follow the winding stories and remember the names of all the new classmates she mentioned. She even started writing poems again, ones that didn't just make sense, but made her smile. It wasn't magic. Margaret knew that, but she believed in the cumulative power of small, consistent choices. A quiet morning tea, a sprinkle in her stew, a daily act of caring for her brain, just as she had once cared for her children's scraped knees and bruised hearts. Aging, she realized, wasn't about fading, it was about finding new ways to flourish. One day, her grandson asked what the yellow stain on her wooden spoon was from. "Turmeric," she replied, smiling. "That little stain? That's the mark of sharp mind." And she meant it, because to Margaret, that spoon wasn't just stained, it was seasoned. Like her, seasoned by time, softened by experience, and still bright with wisdom. 2 walnuts. It started with a simple swap in Harold's routine. At 72, he'd always reached for a cookie or two with his mid-morning coffee, an old habit from his working days. But one afternoon, while visiting his daughter, he saw her scooping a handful of walnuts into a bowl for her snack. "Keeps my brain sharp," she said with a wink. Harold chuckled at first, but something about it stuck with him. He'd always prided himself on his memory. He could still recite his wedding vows from 50 years ago and name every player on a 1965 Yankees roster. But lately, he'd found himself walking into rooms and forgetting why. He'd lose his train of thought mid-sentence or struggle to recall the name of a neighbor he'd known for years. It wasn't alarming, but it was frustrating. So he decided to try something different. At the grocery store that week, he tossed a small bag of walnuts into his cart. Not the salted or sugar-coated kind, just plain raw walnuts. He wasn't quite sure what to do with them first, but soon they became part of his day. Every morning, after pouring his coffee, he'd grab a handful and sit by the window, munching slowly and watching the world wake up. What surprised him wasn't just how tasty they were, rich, slightly bitter with a satisfying crunch, but how they made him feel. Not in a flashy, immediate way, but subtly like something inside him was recalibrating. Over time, Harold noticed he wasn't struggling for words as often. His thoughts felt less foggy. He could read the newspaper without rereading the same paragraph 3 times. He did a little digging, curious about what was in those wrinkled little nuts. Turns out, walnuts are packed with omega-3 fatty acids, the same kind you find in salmon, known to fight inflammation and support brain health. But that wasn't all. They also contain polyphenol, powerful antioxidants that protect brain cells from damage. It made sense. Aging brains, after all, face a constant battle with oxidative stress, and these little guys were like tiny brain shields. Harold liked that idea, a shield for his mind. There was even research backing it up. Some studies showed that older adults who ate walnuts regularly performed better on memory tests than those who didn't. Others suggested walnuts could support better reasoning, concentration, and even mood. Harold wasn't aiming to become a genius at 72, but if a snack could help him remember where he put his glasses or keep up with his grandkids' stories, that was enough. He started experimenting. Crushed walnuts on oatmeal, a few tossed into a salad, even baking them into homemade muffins with a touch of cinnamon, his wife's favorite. They fit so easily into his life, and unlike cookies, they didn't spike his blood sugar or leave him feeling sluggish. In fact, they gave him a steady kind of energy that lasted through the day. His friends at the local community center started noticing, too. "You're looking sharper than ever, Harold," one of them joked during chess club. He smiled, tapping the side of his head. "It's the walnuts," he said. They laughed, but a week later, he saw a few of them pulling out snack bags of their own. It wasn't just about memory anymore. Harold felt more in control, more present. His daily walnut habit became a symbol of something bigger, a quiet commitment to himself. He made peace with the fact that aging came with changes. But he also realized that small choices made every day could stack up to something powerful. He even got a little creative with it. On his granddaughter's birthday, he made her a card shaped like a walnut. Inside, he wrote, "Just like your grandpa, tough on the outside, full of good stuff on the inside." She laughed and gave him a hug, and in that moment, he felt sharper than ever. Years later, Harold still keeps a glass jar of walnuts on his kitchen counter, right next to the coffee pot, right where he can see them. They're not just food to him. They're a daily reminder that no matter how old you are, there's always something you could do to nourish your mind, one bite at a time. One fatty fish. Every Sunday, Carol would visit the farmer's market downtown. At 68, she had a soft spot for tradition, and strolling through the stalls of fresh produce and chatting with familiar faces gave her a sense of calm she couldn't quite explain. But it wasn't just about the fruits and vegetables. A few years ago, she started making a deliberate stop at the fish stall, where a friendly man named Pete sold wild-caught salmon, sardines, and mackerel packed on ice. It all began after a conversation with her doctor. Carol had gone in for a routine checkup and casually mentioned that she'd been forgetting small things, like why she opened the fridge or the name of an actress she loved. Her doctor, who always preferred food over pills, had smiled and asked, "How often are you eating fatty fish?" She admitted it wasn't much. Maybe once a month, if that. "Try 2 or 3 times a week," he said. "Your brain will thank you." That was the first time she'd ever heard about DHA, docosahexaenoic acid, a special kind of omega-3 found in fatty fish that's vital for brain structure. He explained that DHA helps keep brain cells flexible and well-connected, which becomes more important as we age and natural wear and tear begins to set in. He also mentioned that eating more fish might help slow down cognitive decline and preserve memory longer. Carol was intrigued. She wasn't looking for miracles, just a little more clarity and sharpness day to day. So she gave it a try. At first, she kept it simple. Baked salmon with lemon and herbs. Sardines on whole grain toast for lunch. Grilled mackerel on top of a fresh salad. She discovered that these fish weren't just good for her, they were delicious. And more than that, she noticed something subtle shifting after a few weeks. She was finishing crossword puzzles a bit faster. Conversations flowed more easily, and she didn't lose her train of thought as often. She even felt more upbeat in the mornings, less foggy, more motivated to tackle the day. Carol began to research on her own, learning that omega-3s also reduce inflammation in the brain, which plays a major role in age-related decline. It was empowering to know that the food on her plate could have such a direct connection to her mind. And for someone who loved cooking, it gave her purpose. Each new fish recipe became more than a meal. It became a form of self-care. She talked about it with her book club, which quickly turned into a mini support group for healthy aging. They traded recipes and swapped stories about how their minds felt sharper, their moods more even. One woman said she no longer felt that 3 p.m. crash. Another admitted she'd forgotten to renew her crossword puzzle subscription because she wasn't skipping clues anymore. Carol even taught her grandson how to make salmon patties one weekend. He was skeptical at first, but ended up loving them so much he requested them the next time he visited. That night, they sat at the table, just the two of them, sharing stories and laughing over dinner. Carol noticed how present she felt. Focused, clear. It was like her mind wasn't just functioning, it was thriving. She kept it up. Twice, sometimes 3 times a week, fish became the centerpiece of her meals. It wasn't just for memory anymore. She felt it in her joints, her energy levels, even her skin. The benefits were everywhere, but most importantly, she felt more like herself. Years later, when friends asked her for advice about aging gracefully, she always smiled and said, "Start with what you eat, and start with fish." It became her signature tip, tucked between her gardening tips and her famous lentil soup recipe. She still goes to the market every Sunday. Pete, the fishmonger, now sets aside a piece of wild-caught salmon for her, wrapped and ready. Brain food for Miss Carol, he jokes. She laughs, tips her wide-brimmed hat, and wheels her little cart home, knowing that within those omega-rich fillets is something far more valuable than nutrients. There's clarity, independence, and the quiet power of choosing health, one meal at a time.